Okay. Oh, Holy Night. A variety of Christmas varieties. I think I'm one day ahead here, one day behind. As you know, most of my presentations revolve around varieties, and this is no different. We're going to look first at a 1909 Christmas postcard from the Edwardian area. Very popular, very pretty, with an unusual bisect there, paying the 1 cent rate. 1934, the Christmas seal on an early registered airmail to Australia. 69, a Christmas variety with missing black. In 1907, we had a set of 12 Christmas stamps designed by children. These are cards signed by the actual children. We have that same set on cover. We have a misperf from 75. 77, a double purple, actually, and quadruple black, which is a little more complicated than just that. 78, we have the Christmas seal uses postage on high bright paper. 1983 is a stick and tick with some unusual doubling. 1994, there was an unissued set of Christmas stamps on a registered cover from 1994. 1996, the Christmas stamps on cover canceled before the date of issue. 2002, some litho bubbles on Christmas stamps. 2008, a booklet with the die cutting omitted. 1964 to 2019, some Christmas art. This is an idea for if you've got grandkids and want to do something with them. So here's the Christmas card, the Edwardian-era, with wonderful King Edward VII bisect. Unusual to see, but the postage rate was 1 cent at the time. So this is legitimate use of at least of the idea of a 1 cent rate. Here we have a complete set with the centenary of Confederation anniversary and with a couple airmail stamps. South Melbourne, Australia, via Imperial Airways to London. Interesting that they went from Montreal via England over to Australia. Here's the back stamps with the wonderful tied Christmas seal. Left Montreal on November 27th, arrived in Australia, South Melbourne on the 22nd, 25 days travel time, just in time for Christmas. It's that complete set. In 1940 and 1941, there were greeting cards like these sent out with 25-cent war saving stamps inside them. So here's when you open it up, this is the Santa one on the left card. And inside there's this little piece of paper, which when you unfolded it, had a 25-cent war saving stamp and a greeting on it. Here's a little Christmas gift. The second cover, here it is. Sincere greetings for Christmas. And it also had this little envelope, a little pouch, and inside were these war saving stamps. And the idea was that you would be encouraged to save up your quarters, buy these war saving stamps, and once you completed the book, you could take the book in, here, 16 stamps, make a $5 war saving certificate at any bank or post office. So you buy these, then you take them in, you take this thing in, and they give you a certificate that you can redeem for $5. $4 investment is now suddenly $5. Well, it wasn't quite suddenly. You had to hold on to it for 7.5 years. And so when you do the math, it actually is a 3% per annum compounded semi-annually. So when you take the math on it, it's 1.015 to the 15th, because it's 7.5 years. It actually turns out to be 1.25. So it's an exact 3% rate of return compounded semi-annually. The question then, though, is with the Income Tax Act, is this taxable? Holders will not be required to report the difference between the purchase price and the redemption value of war savings certificates as income in making returns under the Income War Tax Act. So it was tax-free money, but it encouraged, even children were encouraged to save these stickers, save your quarters, and buy these certificates and buy these stamps. And they're available in different denominations, all trying to raise money for the government during time of war. Moving on to 69, this is a 6-cent Christmas, the regular on the left here, and a black omitted variety, 503A. So obviously we can see the Canada 6 is emitted, but also the frame line around the outside. We also miss there's black in the hair and the background. Black throughout the stamp is missing. 1970, Canada Post introduced a program that they were going to ask for children to submit designs on the theme of what Christmas means to me. Huge effort, schools and education departments across the country. Canada Post says they received tens of thousands of submissions. These submissions would then go to, within each province of Canada, and are one of the key art gallery within that province, and the educators and teachers would pre-screen them with the directors. And then from each art gallery, there are 40 to 50 of them were sent to Ottawa. And there the final design was, of course, done by the Design Advisory Committee. And of course, then the children would be, they could get some recognition for having designed these stamps. But in addition to getting that recognition, they also won an expenses paid trip to Ottawa. Here they are here. These are a bunch of the students. This is from their stamp issue announcement from Canada Post. And here are their stamps on little cards, all signed by the students. These are original signatures. I think maybe one of them was maybe somebody's parent was a stamp collector or something, and here's these, there were 5-cent stamps and then 5 6-cent stamps. And then for higher rates, there was a 10-cent and a 15-cent. From all, the students were from all 10 provinces of Canada. Here we see them actually looking at the uncut press sheets. This is an unusual format because the way the stamps are laid out on the format, there's no, these 10 stamps, the patterns and blocks are all very, very different. And there's an interesting, so these are the actual uncut press sheets. And here's the complete set of 10 stamps with the children's designs, the 5-cent, the 5-6-cent, and to make it look like a little bit of a Christmas tree with some wonderful calligraphy there and the address of the Hamilton roller can. So obviously philatelic. Moving on to 75, here we have the Christmas stamp. This is from the bottom of the sheet. The stamp should have had Canada at the top, but obviously it was misperfed. And so you can only imagine then what the stamp above it looked like, because they were Suttonot pairs. So the one on top of it, here's the regular one. This is what the variety for the stamp above it. Now, you can see a little bit of the Christmas Noel here and a little bit of the Christmas Noel here. In fact, for this 8-cent stamp, of course, Canada should have been at the top too. It wasn't. Did these two stamps come together from the same sheet? Maybe, but I'd have to look carefully at the perfs. Probably not. But that's what two varieties would look like, the one without the Canada and the one with Canada at the bottom. Here we have the 12-cent Christmas stamp. You often see this one as a variety. Well, you see it generally as a doubling of the Jesus Ahatanonia. But this is actually double printing of the purple, blue, and green with a quadruple printing of the black. So a double, really. And here we can see the double purples here and in here, double blues in there somewhere. And when we look at the top of the Jesus, we see the obvious dark A. We see a ghost of an A behind it, very low and underneath it. And we see a strong ghost here. Now, where the fourth one is a little bit of a mystery, but we do see that this leg is thicker than it should be. That's why I'm picking. So it would look like there's a second black one behind this. That's the only thing I can think of to explain where the fourth one is. It's a very subtle one. This is also a little bit wider than this should be. So it's probably where the fourth one is.
There were 3 languages: English, French, and was that an Indian language? The one Jesus.
That would have been a First Nations language. There's been more recent. We've been having a lot of First Nations references to stamps, but this probably would have been the first one that I've seen. This is the Christmas seal used as postage. and the postage department. Of course, Canada Post, the postage due is always twice the deficiency. So it's obviously 17 cents was the postage rate at the time. So whoever wanted to get it had to pay 34 cents. Now this is probably somebody paying their bill. And so somebody else, they wanted to get away with not having to pay 17-cent stamp. Interesting, I wanted to check the paper for the overdue postage due stamps, and under UV light, even the Christmas seal is printed on high bright paper, which apparently is what I've heard and learned from others in the meantime is that that's quite common. You have the Christmas seal stamps on high bright paper. This is an interesting one, the stick and tick labels. These were the first peel and stick type product from Canada Post. And what they were intended to do was you would fill in your address, you'd apply this to the envelope, you would tick down here the postal code. So if it was M8Y3G1, you would tick these boxes and they would help in the sorting machine. When we see the doubling here, we can obviously, there's doubling of the red berries there. Every berry is doubled as you'd expect. We also see a vertical shift here on the candle coming down, the doubling of the candle. But what we don't see, here we see the doubling of the berry, strong doubling of the berry, but we don't see it on the flame. And that would seem to be a little bit strange. Why would you not double the flame at the same time? Why print the same? So I mean, it had to be done on a separate printing plate. And why would you do that? Took me a while, but I think I have an explanation. When we look at this, we see this isn't doubled either. So this couldn't have been part of the plate that does the berries and the candle. So this probably would have been a separate red plate together with the wick, or the candle flame, sorry. And the idea being, this is just pure supposition on my hypothesis, is that they did this with this plate so that they would know very quickly if this was in the right position or not. Because if this wasn't in the right position, it might cause problems with it. And all they have to do is, if the wick is in the flame is in the right spot, then they know this is in the right spot on the label. So it's more of a quality control check for the double red printing. Why they didn't do it all on one, I don't know. But this is an unusual set of stamps. Here's the 90 and the 90, 50 cent, 52 cent stamps. Those weren't formally issued by Canada Post, ever, never. They had printed them in advance of an expected rate increase, which was not approved by the government, but some pains got into private hands. And this is actually canceled on December 24th. Harold Limburger was a stamp collector in Hamilton who did this kind of stuff in terms of getting unusual stuff from Canada Post, and including missing silvers and print shifts. He obviously had somebody close to him in the post office and he preferred to collect these as on cover rather than mint. So this is an unusual cover. This has now just gone into the Vincent Graves Green Foundation in Canada, in Toronto, for a certificate. Here we're on to 1996. Here we're looking at a Christmas stamp. It's canceled 96/10/23. That's October 23rd. But the stamp was only issued on November 1st. So we're looking about 8 days before it was used. This was in Deauville, Quebec. And here we have a second stamp, also canceled on precisely the same day, 23rd. And again, still, of course, it was only issued on November 1st. And this is from Sherbrooke. These communities are a couple of hundreds of miles apart in Quebec. Interestingly, though, here's the Sherbrooke cancellation, 96/10/23 at 10:07 in the morning. And guess what? The Deauville cancellation, 96/10/23, also at 10:07. So these two covers from very different communities, hundreds of kilometers apart, ended up in Montreal. And this is now we're looking at a couple hours of driving away. The H4L, H4, H3C is tells us that it's Montreal. So it's not, it wasn't even processed in Quebec. And they went through the sorting machine at the same time. Pretty much of an interesting coincidence, I think. Pretty unusual too. Here we're looking at litho bubbles. We talked about litho bubbles before. Here's an example of one in front of the baby Jesus. And if we magnify that, there's a close-up of it. Here's a diffuse, come in different forms, a diffuse, very bold. On the edge of a color, that tells us the black was printed afterwards. And here we are. We can even have multiples on the same printing. It's a defect on the printing plate or the transfer roll. But the question is, of course, are they constant? Here's 101 examples, all with litho bubbles in the blue printing. And here's just one of 5 examples of pairs I found within that bunch. Here we're looking, this is another one in front of the baby Jesus, close to, but not the same one as we just looked at. 2 different stamps, 2 different litho bubbles. And as we zoom in here, we can see that they are the same. And so I've marked these lines to give me an idea of where they are. There's a bit of an angle difference. That's because I've rotated the image. You can see this is different from this. So there's a slight difference in the angle because I didn't rotate them exactly the same. But the lines are they are identical litho bubbles. And this is only just one of 5. And I found other resources of examples where I have 6 of the same litho bubbles. So they are constant, can be constant. They aren't actually a defect on the printing plate. So not all stamps or not all panes will have it, but certainly there's more than just one each time. Here we're looking at the 2008 P stamp. Now this red border that I've drawn around here is mine. It's not on the actual stamps, but it's to highlight, you can see the perforations here. This is a die cut, the regular version. And this is from a full booklet. And this is just half of a full booklet of 12 where the die cutting's being omitted. There's no things. And these retail at about $300 a pair for booklet for a pair of these. I haven't got very lucky because this is the 2008 stamp. And what apparently happened was, the best I can guess, is at the end of 2008, excess stock from the post office were sent back by the postmasters to Canada Post. And then when 2009 came around, they were redistributed back to the post offices to use again. And that's when I got it. My postmaster happened to catch this one and she said, "Oh, I think Arnie would be interested in this." So she put it in a separate folder for me. And next time I came in, I got to buy it at face value. So I actually have a very interesting, unusual variety here. And here's the last one. It's a compilation. My sister was at a flea market and it was made by a woman named Carla Bondi, a Hamilton collector. And as I gather from my sister, she wasn't selling them, but she had it on display. And my sister was able to convince her to sell it. So it was an early Christmas present for my sister Rose. She said she was so excited. She didn't say wait for Christmas to give it to me. And so it's about the size of a placemat. After the Imperial Penny's postage stamp, which was in 1898, which was Canada's first Christmas stamp, if you want to call it, when was the next, how many years later did it take for Canada to issue a Christmas stamp? And the answer to that is 1964. It's this one right here. And there's a blue version too. They got a higher value blue, 5-cent blue. But that's the 1964 stamp. And if you've got any grandkids, if you've got some Christmas stamps, US, Canadian, international, any kinds of stamps, you could ask them, just here, want to make my Christmas present? Give them the idea of this and send that to them. And I say, and then you can have it on your dinner and look at them every day and think about them. So if you need an idea, maybe too late for Christmas for this year, but it could be any theme. If you collect trains or cars or whatever you want, or just something that might fascinate the kids, tell them, put a bunch of these on a piece of cardboard, laminate it, and I'll have it. Oh, here's the Christmas. I just see it now. Here's the 5-cent version of that one. I was looking for it. So an idea, if you have grandkids, do some art for you.